Yeah, thanks, Archie, and thanks to everybody for coming today, and thanks for the panelists for participating in this discussion. Yeah, I guess I'll just start by introducing everybody. As Archie said, I was the journalist in residence at Mount Royal University this fall, which means I got to work with the students in the advanced reporting class to do sort of an in-depth feature article, and the students chose the issue of public safety, which, it's really broad, but also, a really important one, and one that I think cities across, Canada and the US are kind of grappling with. And it was also a huge election issue this past fall too. So, and then from public safety, we kind of focused in on day spaces, which I think, Jess provided a pretty good overview of what's happening at Journey Church up in the Northwest. All right, so Chris, and maybe if you guys could just put your hand up, because Chris Bilodeau is a pastor at Journey Church, which has a congregation of 1,500 people in the Northwest community of Rocky Ridge. So it's right next to the Tuscany train station, if you take the train as far as you can go west. And the church worked with the Calgary Homeless Foundation to create a warming center in December of 2022 that then transitioned into a year-round day space in the spring of 2024. And they see between 40 and 50 people coming a day. It's open Monday to Friday, sort of 10 to 5, but Chris was telling me they actually had 100 people into the space yesterday. So yeah, definitely offering a service that people are responding to. Jessica Cope-Williams is the VP of Community Impact at the Calgary Homeless Foundation, which is a nonprofit that quarterbacks Calgary's response to homelessness. So they collect a lot of data on homelessness in the city and then work with different levels of government to try or to sort of get funding and disperse it to frontline agencies. Is that roughly correct? Okay. John Molyneux is the Vice President of Business Development at Concorde Group, which is a sort of a company that's been around in Calgary for a long time. John's been with the company for 15 years, and they run kind of, I think 20, more than 20?
25 or so.
Yeah, restaurants and bars and event venues. Many of them are in the core. So yeah, we're happy to have John here to kind of talk, to get a bit of a perspective from the business community on public safety in the core. Alice Lamb, works in the field of commercial real estate. She's also a passionate volunteer. She's helped create a number of community-based organizations. For example, Ren Acupuncture and Massage was Calgary's first nonprofit community health clinic. And then Good Neighbour was the first pay-what-you-can thrift store in Canada. And Good Neighbour joined up with the Central Outreach Hub in the fall of 2024, and the Central Outreach Hub was a big focus of the story I worked on, which is a pretty seamless transition to Brad. So Brad is the day space coordinator at Central Outreach Hub, which runs for 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. And it runs out of the basement of the Central United Church in downtown Calgary. And Pert's been volunteering at Central United for several years, and was a key part of kind of developing the partnerships with other organizations like Reconnects, the Calgary Food Bank, Feed the People, and Good Neighbour. So one thing I kind of became pretty clear is like Central Outreach, it sounds like over the past couple of years, and maybe particularly this year, like you guys kind of keep expanding what you're offering, and then the community keeps responding. And you're kind of at a point now where it's pretty critical to get funding in order to kind of keep meeting the need that you're seeing. Okay. I wanted to start with just like a big picture question. As I mentioned, the topic that the students and I investigated this fall was public safety. And this is a broad question. It's actually one that I am borrowing from an article that one of the students also wrote about public safety that was published in the Calgary Journal. But yeah, I wanted to start out by asking, like, what does public safety in Calgary mean to you? And throughout this panel, you guys can feel free to jump in. You don't have to answer every question, but maybe this one, if we just kind of go through and you guys can all provide your perspective on it. Start with Brad.
Yeah, so public safety, thanks for having us, by the way, this is awesome. Public safety to me is like, people's perception of what they see in the streets and how they respond to that, and, how they kind of feel in response to, what's going on. And, people come from a lot of various backgrounds and exposure to different things in lives. And for me, seeing what is going on in downtown Calgary is a bit more relates to my personal experience, but for others, coming from the suburbs or just coming into work, they might not be so familiar with, some of the, I hate to use the word vagrancy, but the things going on downtown, right? And to them, like, this isn't safe, this isn't secure, and it's just maybe having a bit more understanding of, where these people are at in their lives and what they're going through, and the fact they don't really have a place to go. And it's not necessarily a safety issue, it's more of an issue of people just, being put in a situation where they don't really have the resources to get them out of where they currently are. And I think safety from that means, like, how do we help these people to change the perception of what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear me. Hello. Did everybody hear Brad okay? Yeah, okay, awesome. A little bit, okay. Basically, working downtown and growing up in downtown, and to Doug's point about what the media was covering, and this is why I'm so glad this event is led by journalism students and the department, because how you frame a narrative is super important. Something that I thought that was really missing during the municipal election, and even the article from 2 weeks ago in the Herald about the sweeps that the police were doing, is it really emphasized on safety for businesses, safety for people with houses, right? But we lack the conversation about safety for our peers that don't have housing, are in transitional housing, people who are low income, and it creates this othering of an entire segment of the population that is growing in our city. Like, I think everywhere around the world, you're seeing that more and more people are falling through the cracks and needing support, and yet we are categorizing them like they are vermin, which is terrible. But that's the type of language and terminology that's being used to describe people, right? We're scared, we're uncomfortable, it's dirty, it's messy, and so it's been really actually tough to read the Herald and some of the other articles and the way that they're framing the story, because it's not from a compassionate lens and it's not from a holistic lens. Like, as a city, we should really be focusing on public safety for everybody, regardless of their income or their housing status. And so I hope that through conversations like this and through people who work in media and journalism in the future who understand that there is another side to the story, that we can create a more inclusive language and a more holistic approach as to, okay, yes, you don't want people on the streets, but guess what? They don't want to be there either. They have nowhere to go, and that's why day spaces like ours all throughout the city is so important.
Yeah, excellent, thank you. I align with that completely. I believe, when you're talking about public safety, are we talking about public safety for people who are in houses and are in businesses, or are we talking about for everybody? Because I think that, people coming into our day space, and I can speak to our community, and we have had some pushback in our community about people feeling unsafe. But then a lot of those people, when they get the information, when they understand what's really happening, and when they meet our unhoused individuals, our clients coming in, they realize really quickly that they're just like us. We are one and the same. We're all in the same boat. And I think that having those people come in and meet and actually, like Curtis said on the video, developing rapport, you realize very quickly that you can have a nice conversation with them and there isn't any danger there. Also, I think a lot of misinformation is causing people to feel unsafe when they don't need to, and that's creating our unhoused clients to feel unsafe. So when they don't feel supported by the community, they don't feel safe, and that's not okay. And so I think we need to advocate for public safety for the public as a whole, and not just for people who are living in the houses in those communities. So I think when we invite them in and we give them information and we talk them through kind of what we're doing and the reason we're doing it, And it's not just about giving out sandwiches and sending them on their way, but there's actual real resources. There's real help for individuals in there. People are feeling more comfortable, which is why we started doing those tours. So I think it should be for everyone.
Now we just see if they clap for us. Hey. So public safety, I think, and I lots of agreement with what I've heard from my co-panelists here. I think public safety is something we got to break down when people use it in kind of just the regular.
You need to creep closer to the microphone.
Oh, thank you. Sit closer to the microphone. Thank you so much for helping me out. Oh, I can hold it, so
It's probably easier.
let's see. Working it down. Maybe you know what? I'm not going to touch it. It seems good. How's that? Good.
Yeah.
Okay, you helped me. Thank
You're
you.
not talking to yourself anymore.
Well, hopefully I'm not. At least you can hear it. So public safety, I think we need to dig into, the word gets used to cover a whole bunch of different things. And so oftentimes when I think people are talking about public safety, they're talking about a specific concern. And if we can get into talking about what the concern is and how that concern is being experienced, we can have a whole different type of conversation where we're going layers deeper than just talking about this kind of general statement of public safety. And I think our learning has been in the work that we've been doing is the way that safety is so often achieved through relationship. And so taking the time as the issues come up, as diverse and different as they are, to understand what is the concern, to validate that concern, and then be able to move forward together, I think that's where I want to see our public safety conversation happening.
Very well said by everybody here. I mean, I'm coming in here, invited by Doug, from a bit of a different perspective, having some businesses throughout the Beltline. And, you know, we do see some very challenging situations and people that are in very, very challenging situations throughout the Beltline around our restaurant. So for me and our team, it's for us specifically to the restaurants, it's about the safety of the people in and around our spaces. And so our team, we do our best, I suppose, to give some tools and training to our teams where they can find the right resources to help with some challenging situations that they may witness. So I don't have a lot more to add than I really agree with what everybody has said here, that when I consider public safety, it's safety for everybody in the community. So.
Yeah, no, thanks. And it was, it was great to get such kind of thoughtful and different responses on that. I guess picking up on it, like, I guess I've got a question of like, how do you sort of see the police kind of fitting in terms of the question of public safety and, and kind of which population of safety is kind of being prioritized in a particular moment. Like, and I guess, we could break this down, like some of you, I guess maybe this is a question for the people who are running day spaces, but I'm wondering if you could talk a bit about, if you have a contact with the police and kind of what that relationship's like, and kind of, if they're invited into this space, and if not, why not? Just kind of expand on that a bit.
Sure, I guess I can talk. So at Journey Church, we're in the Rocky Ridge Royal Oak community, and we do have a community officer that we are in regular contact with. So when there is an incident, they get an incident report. So they're made very aware of that. They are attending our community meetings, and they're very supportive. When we've had issues of protesters from the community protesting us on Sunday services, they've allowed for police presence in our parking lot, which gave a lot of support and really just helped make sure that there was no escalation from community members and our church congregants. Because what we were afraid of is that people coming into church for Sunday would want to defend the church and go and speak with the protesters and want to, get into a discussion with them. And we were just like, we decided no engagement is probably our best policy in that case. So the police have been very, very supportive to us at CP. The CPS has been very supportive to us. They are often taking people that are in the area that, let's say they get released from the remand center or something like that, and if we're open, they'll come and drop them off for us to provide support as well. So there's been a two-way partnership, but so I would say that from the Journey Church perspective, at least in the community, we've seen a lot of support from CPS and been very grateful for that. So.
I think from our perspective, we used to have our own standalone building on 5th Avenue, and now we're in the basement of Central United Church, and with the recent increase in arresting on or ticketing on open drug use and stuff like that, we're seeing a lot more police presence in our neighborhood, and I would say that it really depends on the police officer. Some of them can be really understanding and really kind. I would say probably over 50% of them would rather not be policing unhoused people. They would rather be solving crimes, doing detective work, but yet this is the highest demand. And do I believe that the police are the best resource in terms of helping the most vulnerable in our communities that are dealing with mental health crisis and things like that? Probably not, but we also don't have that same kind of funding for social workers or peer support workers or mental health supports. I think a program that has worked really well is when the police are paired with a mental health nurse, for example. That has been proven to be effective in terms of getting people in de-escalating situations. But I don't know if at the top of the Calgary Police Commission and everything, like they put out reports as twice this year talking about how day centers are important. We should be funding them because that's the real solution to the issues that we see in terms of public perception of safety, and yet they're still asking for like a $20 million budget increase this year, right? Instead of $20 million going into social services or housing or things like that. So we definitely see a lot more people rushing into our space downtown because it's downtown and that's where the sweeps are. I have a complaint about the police too, like the ones on horses, they like gallop through the alleys and they poo everywhere and they don't clean it up even though they're supposed to clean it up, and it's gross and it's a public space. And so that's another bone I have to pick with them. But I would say in general, like as much as the police don't want to be doing this work, like that's what they're tasked with, and until council or the police leadership decide, okay, we're going to funnel resources away from beat cops and putting it into actual social workers and peer support workers and mental health supports and having day spaces and rehabilitation and detox centers, like I don't know how we're gonna move the needle on it, so yeah.
I guess from the perspective of Central Outreach Up too, like one thing I'm incredibly proud of is like the low interactions we've ever had with Calgary police. Like in the couple of years I've been there, it's been, I can count them on one hand, and I kind of owe that to the environment we created for our clientele, that it is a safe space, and they can come there and they kind of even don't even like to use the term policing, but they can kind of like take care of themselves, and we understand where the issues are and kind of the pinch points that would kind of raise concern or like lead to someone calling police. But we kind of in a way almost choose not to, because we understand the people that come into our space want a safe space, and a lot of them are traumatized by the police or have stress surrounding that, and it doesn't really add to the kind of environment we're creating. So like I said, it's incredibly nice to be able to say, like, no, we don't have daily interactions with CPS. We don't have to call the police when there's an issue. Like, our people are able to resolve it themselves in a safe and quiet and kind of secure manner. And we have had talks with the police before, but they're just really coming down the alley saying, oh, you should put lights here, you should put lights there, right? It's kind of the exterior safety of the building, but in terms of what goes on inside, it's been very bare minimal police interaction in the years we've operated, and I owe that all to like the people that work there and kind of understanding the trauma people experience, and our clientele understanding, no, we don't want to bring police in to kind of police this place, because we got a really good thing going regardless of that. It's been an incredibly safe atmosphere. I was talking to like someone else yesterday, and we barely had to call the EMS in a couple of years we were there. It's just because I truly believe it's what we created on that kind of trauma-informed, really respecting the people that come in. So, the police are there for when we need them, but we rarely do.
And I think we haven't mentioned, like, on a 2-hour basis when we're open 5 days a week, we see 200 to 300 people during that period. And so it's high volume, and it's like you would think that there would be, I think there's a lot of misconceptions, you know, about what occurs on the inside because people don't see it, and that's why, to your point, tours are really good, because when you enter inside, it's peaceful, right? People are getting clothes, they're eating a meal, they're meeting up with a friend, they're getting their foot looked at, they're getting testing done, whatever it is, right? For the high amount of people and the short amount of time that we have, it's really honestly a well-respected space, and we saw that at the Good Neighbor, we saw it at the community fridge when we first started, and it's because I think it's such an important space, and one of the few that are barrier-free, where you can just go and get what you need, no questions asked, no proof of entry, no sobriety test, whatever, and so they're like, you know, we're all here because we need this, and we're going to support it as best as we can. And if somebody acts up, it's just like they're just overstimulated and they just need a corner and a cigarette and a chill out zone, you know. So there are ways to solve things without police, and I think over the past year we've shown that time and time again.
Can I make one more comment about police? That's exactly what's happening at Journey Church. We find people come out to Journey Church because they know it's a place where they can rest. We're open for a little bit longer, so we have 6 hours during the day that we're there. And they'll come, and a lot of times they'll sleep for 6 hours because they're so tired because they've been up all night walking around and not having a place to rest. We found that we have advocates with people experiencing homelessness. We have advocates in that community that are saying to others, you know, don't cause any trouble. We love this place. It's a place of peace. We want to keep it. We want to keep it clean. We want to keep it good. And so they're advocating for us with their friends to make sure that it stays a place that's peaceful. And so we also have very, very few police incidents where they need to actually be called on site. So I would second that as well.
Okay, and I wanted to pick up, like, Alice, when you were talking about, you know, what does public safety kind of means to you, you mentioned how there's maybe a tendency in the mainstream media or even, you know, among kind of the general housed community to kind of other people who are experiencing homelessness or people who have an addiction. And I think part of that kind of othering or lumping people into a category is there's sort of a sense, maybe sometimes for people who are housed, to sort of see homelessness as something that's fixed, or to see addiction as something that's fixed. But, you know, people do connect with supports, and they do get better. And I understand day spaces have kind of proven to be an effective way for connecting people to those kinds of supports. So I'm wondering if you guys could talk a bit about, like, what is it about that environment that you think kind of sets the stage for someone to make a change?
Well, I think for us, one of the big things is we are peer-led, right? A lot of the folks who are volunteering in our space are people who are active in recovery or have recovered and have gone through the programs. And so even the day that, you know, we had media there, people were saying, like, wow, it's such a different vibe. And I think the main reason is because it's by people for the people, right? Whatever we do to respond to the needs of the community, they feel comfortable telling us they are all equal owners in the space. We don't own the church, you know, we're also just a part of it. And so I think that it's great because everybody takes ownership, but also it's a regular space that people can go to build community over time. That consistency and that reliability is super important. You know, when you go in and there's like, the nonprofit sector and the charitable sector is so poorly funded that you have new staff every other week. People are burnt out, they're leaving. And so for somebody who's in a precarious situation, they're trying to build trust and relationships with their social worker, caseworker, whoever it is, and then they go the next day and they have to start all over again. It's so, like, mentally exhausting and also depressing because you're just like, damn, I thought I had an advocate and now I have to start from scratch. And, you know, different people align with different personalities. And so what I found is that we've been lucky to have the same consistent volunteers over the past year, and even from our old location, it's 4 years in total to build these bonds in the community. But we also have incredible partnerships within the central hub of having Sisika there, Sutina is there, the Alex, Alpha House, whoever it is, like, they're all there trying to do the same thing, and the same faces are present. And so we've had people, I'm stealing all the stories from the volunteers, by the way. Like, I feel like I'm just like regurgitating what they always say, but they'll be like, people don't have phones, they don't have access to the internet. Like, so they get to be like, oh, meet me for lunch at Good Neighbor on Fridays. And that's how they build their community, right? It's like consistent, like finding friendship. You have to forget, like, don't forget that houselessness and even when you're living in affordable housing, the key piece that causes people to relapse and re-enter into homelessness or addictions is a lack of community. Like, housing is important and it's housing first, but it's not enough. You need to have spaces for people to connect, because loneliness is the #1 cause of addictions and mental health degradation. So yeah, I think it's just pardon? Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's just like being able to hear people from other talk about their stories, share their relationship, and again, have a warm place to go without people kicking them out. Like, it's, you know, you can actually build bonds. And so if you haven't been to the Central Hub, like, come on a Tuesday. That's when there is the Reconnects program. That's when you can see it in its fullest glory, right? All the people are there, and it's such a great vibe. And then what we want is like more funding to be able to replicate this on all the other days of the week as well and expand hours. So yeah.
You know, let's kind of add to that too. What Alice said is incredibly important. Like, the opposite of addiction is like that connection to community. Like, I can speak from the perspective of as like a former addict and going through this and going through recovery and understanding like there's no one set way for someone to recover. Like, it can't be defined. It's not necessarily going to treatment centers. It's not necessarily going to 12-step programs, but it's being able to be in a place where you feel comfortable to kind of step out of that shame and loneliness that you suffer in addiction and connect with others in community. Like, Central Outreach Hub is like almost fully pure run. Like, we have people who've experienced all kinds of different backgrounds, and be able to make that connection with someone in need is so important, because we can relate to those stories and understand where they are in their growth and what they need to kind of succeed. And it might just be to be left alone for the day. It might be just to be laughed with or to sleep on the floor for a couple hours, but everybody's different. And I think to help people to come out of that cycle of addiction and kind of mental health issues, they really need to kind of come to that on their own terms. And what we do is offer a space where that's available to them. And, you know, to be able to offer it consistently, Alice said, for people to come down, meet on a daily basis and just have that kind of home base. And when they're ready to make the next step, we have the resources there to help them. And, you know, we don't push it upon anybody, but we're really proud to have people they can talk to, or have programs they can go to, or connections they can make. And, you know, we see it's so cool to see volunteers come in who, you know, came for a meal one day, but now they're helping clean or like chatting with other people. So it's, you know, it's really that connection part that we thrive on, and it's just, you know, expanding on that and, you know, having access to what people need. And, you know, everybody needs something different, and, you know, we're so well rounded, we offer a lot of it, so it's pretty cool.
I'll jump in there with some broader context. So we don't have enough housing. And that's a really important part of why we need day spaces, why we need outreach teams, why we need shelters. And so I think when we think about day spaces as an initiative, we have to think about what we're solving for, or what we're trying to do. So there's probably lots of folks who are visiting Journey, visiting Good Neighbor, visiting Brad at Central United, who are waiting for housing with Calgary Homeless Foundation. And they're experiencing some disappointment with the system right now, because they were ready and we weren't ready. And so to have support in the community where you can get some basic needs met, get a rest, feel safe, feel connected, is one part of the work that we've got to be doing. And we will continue to do the work on the pursuit of increasingly more affordable housing. The two have to work together.
I can give a little bit of perspective from the church. I know that when back in the day we used to send missionaries up to the Northwest Territories, and they would go into First Nations, and they would have an agenda, and they would try and push that agenda, because they would try to make whatever's happening in that community be more like us. And so I can speak to that apologetically, saying this was the wrong approach. When you approach people, you need to meet them where they're at. You need to help them advocate for themselves. And you need to listen more. And I think that we've done a good job of that at Journey Church. And I can speak to the way that we, at least our approach, our perspective is, you know, where are you at? Let's get to know you. Let's talk. And like you're talking about building a rapport. We treat everyone that comes through our church as equals because they are equals. We don't see a difference there. There's different circumstances, sure, but we're equals and we need to treat people that way. But understanding where they're at, not coming in with an agenda saying this is, I really think you should do this or that. Let them kind of dictate that for themselves, and we're just trying to guide them in the right direction, left or right, one way or the other. We're providing resources, we're providing friendship, we're providing community, as we've talked about, but we're not going in with something that we're trying to force or push, or our agenda is not what matters. It's really what's important to them in those moments. So.
I did want to, I think, sort of starting this sentence in a bunch of different ways, but so I think it's safe to say many Calgarians would be behind the idea of day spaces, like providing a welcoming environment for people who need the support. But then I think some of those same people wouldn't want a day space to open down the street from where they live or sort of close to where they work. So it seems like a key part of the success of running a space like this is kind of getting buy-in from the community and from your neighbors. I guess I'm wondering if you guys could talk about what's something that's maybe really worked, in terms of connecting to the people that are kind of around the building that you work out of, and then what's something maybe that you wish you'd done differently, or what's something that you've kind of learned from that process.
I can start. I think we're using a fancy new word called day spaces, which was kind of created when United Way and stuff wanted to do hub funding 20 years ago. But what a day space really is a community center. And why we are in a church is because downtown does not have a community center. But that's what churches used to be. They were community hubs where people could go for services, mutual aid, recreation, whatever it is. And so when we think about I don't want to start calling them day spaces and then people associating day spaces only with unhoused or poor people with addictions. Really, a day space should be for everybody. We always said if everybody had a house to live in, if everybody had good, I would still want a day space to exist because we should have third spaces to go to and hang out and meet people and build community. Think about how many places you can count on one hand, the number of places that you as an individual can go to without paying, that is open during good hours, that is open to people of all ages. They're far and few in between. There's a library, but you can't talk in the library. There is public parks. We're a winter city, 8 months of the year, we can't really use them. So this is why it frustrates me because around the city, we have maybe more than 400 community centers that sit vacant 5 days a week. We have faith-based organizations that have their places vacant 5 days a week. I'm at least rent it out to another nonprofit or at least do something. So I know that right now it's very we're calling them day spaces, but really we're just bringing back the community center model to the people who have always needed it. And I think what has really worked for us is working with the local businesses, inviting them into the space, destigmatizing what they might think. In your article, Doug, there was the gentleman from the Central Business Association that was yes, I watched them from our 14th floor office tower, and they come out, and it's, and it's I would love to invite him into our space, so he can see what it's like, right? Because it's just a chill space. It's no different from a school, any other kind of public space, or a mall, we like to call it. It's just a place that people are hanging out at. And we've connected with the Palomino, and they've been great. They come and they've been in the space before, the managers, and they donate food to us. They get it, right? Safety for them and their clients is also safety for our clients as well. And it's, you can't have one without the other. So I think if we had more time and more resources, we would be open house, because we don't have a time where it's oh, don't come in here during this time. It's any time the door is open. It doesn't matter if you're housed, unhoused, high income, low income. We're open. Anybody can come get a meal. Anybody can come get clothing. We have transit drivers that come in and use the bathroom because there's no public bathrooms downtown that's accessible for them. So it's truly getting our story out there, letting people know that, hey, Good Neighbor is open, and everybody's welcome is super important, because we don't want to turn it into the same stigmatization that shelters might have. We don't want that for our spaces.
We saw the same thing at Journey Church. We realized, as Alice said, we realized that our foyer was sitting empty 5 days a week, 6 days a week sometimes. And we had people experiencing homelessness coming to our building and knocking on the doors because we're a church. And a church should be that place. A church should be what you're describing, a place where people can come and get help. Doesn't matter who you are, whether you're housed or unhoused, you should be able to come to a church and feel supported. You know, if you need to get a grocery gift card or whatever that is. And so we never want to turn people away, and that's what church should be. I believe in that wholeheartedly. And I can also say that Facebook hasn't helped us very much, if I'm honest. There's a Facebook community group in our community, and that has not been great because the information getting out on the Facebook group, a lot of it isn't true. It just isn't true. So this is the reason why we started doing monthly tours of our building, is to give people real information to counter the misinformation that's online. So that hasn't helped us in terms of one of the challenges with the community, but I feel like the community as a whole supports us. We have a lot of advocates in our community. We have a lot of volunteers in our community. They're coming into our day space and serving coffees and helping out with cleanup and all those kind of things. But really getting good information to kind of counteract the misinformation. And when people come in and they see that it's a robust program, that we're helping people in a real, tangible way, we're not just handing out sandwiches, often they'll change their perspective. And we've got a really good story of someone that we did have a community meeting with, came in very defensive, very concerned. She lives in the community, kids in the community. And now she's one of our biggest advocates, and she's baking bread for our warming center and that kind of thing. So people's perspectives can change when they get real information and they get the truth. Yeah.
Sorry, can I just add one more anecdote so as a property manager, we have a shopping center in Royal Oak, the one with like the Costa Vida and stuff like that, yeah. And there was a couple years ago after the pandemic, every night there was like somebody breaking a window of one of the businesses and grabbing literally $5 out of the till or $10 out of the till consistently every night for about 2 weeks. And it's because when we talked to the police were like, we're sorry, but the city cut the funding was stopped for transit tickets, and we are no longer driving people to the train station. So what is somebody to do when they leave remand with nothing in their pockets? Like, they're like, I'm sorry, I have to, I know this sucks, you have to replace your glass, it costs $800, but they have nowhere else to go. And that probably was even a little bit before your day program started, probably. Like, it was 2021, yeah.
Year before.
Yeah, and then that was it. The police were like, sorry, there's no other way for these people to get, like, because the remand, like, Royal Oak is very far northwest, and there's no bus, they don't have tickets. So it's like little things like this that are purely systemic. And at first our tenants, like, we have 80 tenants or 60 in that plaza, and they were so pissed. And when I explained to them, like, this is why, they're like, fuck, that sucks. Like, it sucks that's why, They were like, I'd buy bus tickets for them. Like, let's just donate bus tickets because this is ridiculous, right? And so I think helping the business community understand why people are where they are and the kind of systemic barriers that they face, because I think a lot of the times even the media will paint it as a personal choice, right? You're unhoused, you should be bootstrapping, you should be picking yourself up off the ground. But a lot of the reasons that people fall into poverty and addictions is because of systemic issues.
I know, we're talking a lot about like the sort of specifics about kind of how day spaces, work and some of the unique benefits they provide. But John, I wanted to give you an opportunity just to, like, on some comment on kind of anything you've sort of heard so far, but also maybe as a bit of a prompt too, like, if there was a space like, the Central Outreach Hub or Journey Church kind of opening down the street from one of your restaurants, what would be your kind of ideal kind of relationship?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I should have probably sat over here rather than up here, because I did come here today because I'm very interested in learning more about what you're all doing and trying to. My son is 4th generation Calgarian. Like, I've been in the city for a long time, and I see things, and people in such challenging situations, and see the change. And sitting on the sidelines isn't good enough anymore for me. So even though I can't provide the information, and I'm not doing enough, so that's why I'm here. I think we're in a position as a company to be able to do more. I mean, we support organizations, and we've got lots of volunteerism, and the crew at the Palomino does a great job. But that's why I came. And as far as if there were a day space to open, you know, in down the street or next door to one of the restaurants, well, first of all, I would very much be in support of that, hearing the success that you're having and the initiatives that you're doing for these members of our community. But and I think that we as look, I'm going to back up a second. My team members are getting a little frustrated, if I'm being honest, because there's a lot of things happening in and around the restaurants that are challenging situations that they're not really equipped to handle. So it is a discussion on a daily basis about, you know, what can we do and where's the right support to go if this happens, or if this person needs this, or, you know, training them on how to, you know, administer Narcan. You know, it's not something that as restaurant managers and team members we really had to do a while ago or know how to do. So I'm rambling, so I'll just say this. I'm very impressed with what I've heard so far, and looking forward to having further conversation to see how Concorde and myself, just aside from Concorde, can support these initiatives and these members of the community.
I did want to just pick up on, like, in sort of the reporting for this story, I kind of got the sense that the Central Outreach Hub, you guys are at a bit of a crossroads. Like, you feel like you've kind of taken this kind of as far as you can on volunteer kind of, you know, initiative and time. Yeah, Brad, I'm wondering if you could talk a bit about kind of what you see as the next step and kind of how that's going.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Like, this was, you know, it's a grassroots initiative that was built on like the hard work of a couple volunteers, and it's grown exponentially. Like, then we saw the need and we started to meet the need, and the need just keeps increasing on almost a daily basis. Like, every single hour we're open, there's more people coming in the doors and looking to access our resources. And, you know, we stretched ourselves really thin with the, you know, really gracious community donating and, you know, supporting us, and volunteers coming in dedicating long hours, but we simply can't sustain it on volunteer hours alone. We need the funding to kind of, like, you know, make it safer, make it more sustainable, and just keep this going, because the community needs us there. And, like, you know, the community wants us there based on whom we're serving, right? And we just don't have the funds to, you know, help them, give them what they need. And I think going forward is just a matter of securing that to kind of, you know, make this a permanent fixture in the community, and like work with groups like yours, John, to kind of understand, like, you know, where are the resources that your employees need to kind of like help you guys out, right? Where are the place your employees can direct people to go? But it's just a matter of fact, like, we're only open up 2 hours a day. That's all we can sustain right now, and we're spreading ourselves thin with that. So I think with increased funding and increased exposure and increased support from groups that can help us, you know, we can become a vital resource for everybody in the community, not just the kind of our guests that we're helping right now. You know, and I'd love to see it grow. It's amazing how much it grows. It grows every week. It's incredible. Like, every time we do a new proposal, it's like, oh geez, like, this new thing happened, this new thing's happening now, and it's just, you know, how do we keep this going? And it's, yeah, the key is funding. That's what we need.
I did want to ask a question. So I guess just I'll sort of have one more question, and then we'll open it up to the audience for anybody who wants to kind of participate. But yeah, I wanted to, I guess, get at the idea of root causes. And Jessica, you talked, well, I mean, you didn't talk about a root cause. Well, Alice, you kind of got into that a bit more, but like it seems like any, you know, what I think everybody is really interested in is the idea of long-term solutions. But I get the sense, like, day spaces or community centers, they're both short-term and long-term solutions. Like, if we're talking about places that you know, anybody is welcome and a place where you can kind of go and be part of a community. But are there any like kind of public policies, you know, whether it's the new city council or the Alberta government, or even the federal government, that kind of has the most potential to kind of move the dial on homelessness and poverty?
Well, the province just cut, like, didn't they cut funding to your organization or take it back in-house? Like, I think housing, healthcare, this is all provincial, right? And city council, like you saw during the municipal election, like if you talk to every mayoral candidate, councillor candidate, they're like, people were asking like, what about safety? What about homelessness? What about whatever? And it's like, oh, that's a provincial jurisdiction. That's provincial. We're picking up the slack, even though it's not what we're supposed to be doing. And so I think absolutely there are policy recommendations, like stop clawing back AISH, stop closing down, like increase detox beds, increase rehabilitation centers, fund social services, right? And the other thing too is, like, we often forget that city council should be representing the needs of the most vulnerable in our city, not the people who donate the most to their campaigns. And so that's difficult because, you know, even with like the rezoning conversation or the housing, like you saw how many people were against, you know, changing housing rules or increasing affordable housing. Everybody was saying, oh, don't rezone my neighborhood, but, you know, build affordable housing, but don't build it in my neighborhood, build it like on the outskirts of the city. And that's not how you solve this issue. Like, the more disconnected we get through urban sprawl, the more this issue will just become greater and greater in our city. And so, you know, our provincial government right now, unfortunately, is cutting everything, right? And they're not even providing enough funding to the housing, the affordable housing that exists to keep up with maintenance and to keep up with the lifespan. Many of the affordable housing buildings that are subsidized were built in the 1970s, 1980s because of CMHC funding, and they're at the end of their lifespan when it comes to their boilers, their HVAC systems. There's mold, there's asbestos, like anything you can think of, and there's no funding to fix these things. So you're basically asking people who are low income to live in like derelict kind of situations, which is totally not great. And then it leads to further physical and mental health issues with the most impoverished class in our province. And so, yeah, like we can do this all day long, but we will never give away enough food and give enough clothing to solve some of these issues that are completely systemic. Like, how does somebody live off of $800 a month or $1,200 a month, right? With OAS, with, like, I'm just talking about seniors right now. Old age security and CPP plus guaranteed income supplement, maybe you're topping out maximum at $1,400 a month if you're lucky. Who here can live off of that? Nobody. But that's what our seniors are living off of, and that's who comes into Good Neighbor, right? Because they have a grandpa talking to me being like, this is the first time I've gotten a pair of pants in 4 years, and he's been tying it together. Like, that's just, we are one of the richest cities in the country, and this is how we treat people. Like, that's insane to me. And yet like, not to pick on like the corporate, like I work in corporate too, but it's like they're constantly saying, oh, let's cut taxes, yet you want to solve all these problems. How, right? So I hope that everybody who's here and listening can advocate and understand, like, your vote matters, and how we like hold our politicians accountable is super important as well, because as we saw in New York and Seattle, they elected very socialist type of policymakers. Like, we can hopefully do that here too. Yeah.
Jump in on that one. You know, I think when we're talking about the issue of homelessness and lack of housing and all the complexity that go along with it, we're talking about systems that operate within systems. And so it's very complicated. And I think where there's a lot of places where we aren't doing good enough as a whole community, and I don't think that's just by level of government. Like, it's across the board. We're not doing enough, and there's places where things are going right. I'm sitting on a stage with people where things are going right. It's our city that's investing in the Day Spaces initiative here, and we had lots of competition among folks who wanted to operate a day space, and that's really encouraging too. The fact that we had such a hard decision about where to allocate those funds, that's amazing. That work that's all happening. And so for us, I think, for all of us, increasingly looking at the places of coordination and leveraged resources. Like, you look at what these guys are running with like tiny budgets is incredible. And so I think going back to your earlier comment around celebrating what's going right, there is things going right. We're a city with a population that has grown so rapidly that we've been able to be responsive to that population change is pretty remarkable. So there's still work to do. And I think hopefully there's folks out there who have had good experiences, and we're seeing it, of getting housed and moving forward through the system.
Well, yeah, thanks, Jessica. I think that's a pretty hopeful note to kind of end the formal aspect of the panel discussion on. Does anybody from the audience have questions that you'd like to put to the group?
Yeah, I do. Pretty easy to see the difference between low income and no income. Pretty easy to see that people under shame and guilt get into a lifestyle like outside the DI on the block. Pushed out there, they're treated this way with no opportunity, none whatsoever. No jobs, no application for health care, or proper medication, or bettering themselves. They're on an invite by somebody to a safe place and it's supposed to be a place of transition, not end of the road. Right? But for a lot of people, it's end of the road. There's nothing there that's creating opportunities. There's no opportunity for anybody to change. The only opportunity there for the drug dealers to take people like the Neighbour, who's $1,600 a month age, and take that money from them. Because there's nobody there to tell them not to. There's nothing there for disposals except for food and a bed. And so if you're going to help somebody, you need to, remember when Mom said you don't like the car wreck? Look at everybody like the car wreck. After that car wreck, it's hard work to get back on your feet, to be able to keep moving. You have to go through that transition. First, yes, it's difficult, yes. But you have to do it, or else you're going to die. You're going to fail. People at home are just like that. You can't just say, well, here, stay here, and eventually you'll get a house, you'll get welfare, and you'll get whatever. Because those people are never going to leave. They're going to stay there thinking that this is all they're going to do. They're never going to get better. But I promise you this, those people, say you started a pallet yard, people can go, any person can go there and nail pallets together and make money. There's no place like that. There's no place for any of those people. Honestly, if there was, there wouldn't be a problem, because they built their own house.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, thanks. Yeah, thanks for your comment, and yeah, yeah, that was an evocative description. What's your name? Andrew. Does anybody kind of want to pick up on Andrew's comment about, I guess, maybe ways or opportunities to kind of, I think it picks up on a lot of kind of what we've been talking about, but those steps or rungs in a ladder that somebody can take to kind of make a change when they're kind of at their lowest moment.
Yeah, I can speak to that. And first of all, thanks for sharing that. Like, coming from a history of, hitting rock bottom and suffering through addiction and losing it all, like, it feels like a really empty spot and not knowing where to go, right? And I think for people like yourselves who have that drive and want to do the next thing, that's a place I want to see exist in Calgary, is where people can come in, find that connection, find a sense of purpose. And one of the things we want to do is start offering those people little opportunities, whether it just be, help clean up, or, help put things away, or help serve people, or talk to people, right? That's one of the primary purposes I feel our place exists, is so people can come and make that connection and have that consistency of showing up every day and being a part of the community. And when we do have, small funds we can hand out, we pay the people just a little bit so they can have something to show for their hard work and dedication, and we find, like, speaking to everyone else, we find that helps so much just to give someone so little. But but it's also something so huge that they're contributing and they're part of something. They're back on their feet, and we can write them letters of reference and take to jobs and do those sorts of things, right? And those places should exist. It shouldn't just be a bed and a meal. It should be a place for people to start to grow, and that's what we really want to create. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, in the back.
I just have a question for the gentleman. Sorry, I forget your name.
Over here?
Yeah.
John.
Okay, perfect. My name's John. Perfect. I was wondering if you've been in meeting with other corporate people, business people, and what their biggest concerns for things like this is, because at least in my interactions with the police, I'm quite a good neighbor. Oftentimes you get kind of dismissive things about after when we close or times when we think the cops will come and sweep the alleys and be like, you can't be here again, where are we supposed to go, right? But when we talk to them, the police officers will be like, well, the businesses don't want things here. And I guess, how would you talk to those people, to people on your side? You're right, obviously you guys have concerns. You guys have things that you have to meet, revenue margins that you have to meet, make sure everyone's getting paid here. We don't want your business to be closed, right? So, yeah, what have you heard from the circles that you're in, and how would the capacity go to communicating with them?
Well, it's a good question. It's again, there is some frustration, for sure, but understanding, I suppose, looking at it from a different perspective is again why I'm here. I mean, I've never had a perspective whereby I don't respect every member of our community. I'm just trying to find some more tools for my team to be able to, I guess, understand and I want to try to bring the frustration level down and find some tools for them, or tools might be the wrong word, but just find some avenues and some ideas. I should have brought them all here. They wouldn't all fit in the room, but it would be great if they all came to listen to this. And so I do want to talk about that after this. But, I suppose Doug's email to me came at a time when my eyes were open in a different way to what's happening with one of our restaurants having a fire lit behind it and being shut down back on November 4th. Fortunately, nobody was hurt. Fortunately, the fire department reacted very quickly and we're rebuilding the restaurant. But it really gave me pause and it made me think, again, we're not, as a company, or maybe myself personally, in the position I'm in with this company, are not doing enough, and I'm not having the right conversations with the people that I might be able to have them with. So that's a pretty, I don't know if that's a great answer to your great question, but the intention is to participate more, get off the sideline and try to find some ways where Concorde and myself can support. Yeah.
Yeah, how do you think you got to that place where you were looking for other avenues instead of relying on the police or whatever? Because you hear a lot of businesses, I think in the article, talks very to me the businesses downtown.
Yeah, Mark Garner at the Calgary Downtown Association. Yeah.
He seemed very hesitant or reluctant to support central outreach job or the base spaces maybe in the downtown core.
Like you wish we weren't in the downtown.
Yeah. And so I was wondering how you got to the place where you were more open to hearing.
Yeah, I don't know that I haven't been open to it. I just, when I suppose an incident like this or some sort of crisis within our company, it just made me really think, okay, we can, my team is frustrated, so I go back to that. And the complaining about the incidents and maybe the petty crime that they're seeing and the disturbance to some of our guests at times, instead of just talking about it or complaining about it or just living into that frustration, what can we do? I need to try to work with my teams to maybe look at this from another perspective. And again, that's why I'm here. So I don't have great answers today. I really don't. And I should have probably, again, been sitting down on the floor. But again, I figured it's time for me to just learn more and see where and what the best ways to support these great initiatives are. So.
Yeah, and so I can maybe jump in too, because like I don't think, like when you talk about your team feeling, frustrated or having concerns about safety, like I don't think that's unique to the Concorde Club. Like I think that's something that other businesses and people who spend time downtown, have also expressed.
Yeah.
Like there was the downtown safety leadership table report, came out and talked about more people don't feel as safe kind of being alone at night in the downtown, or people who work at businesses downtown don't feel safe kind of leaving alone by themselves.
I think that is not necessarily due to the population that we're talking about right now. There are unsavory characters in every city, and I think as a safety concern with people not feeling safe downtown, walking through the streets downtown, we've heard of some horrible things happening to people. And I don't think that that's necessarily talking about the same population that we're talking about today. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I think that does circle back to something we've talked about a little bit, which is like the idea of safety, and then also the kind of perception of safety, and maybe efforts around education or destigmatizing people who experience homelessness in the city is part of that, helping more people in the city be able to identify, what's someone who's perfectly harmless and having a bad day, and what's somebody who is a cause for concern for safety.
I think that a lot of people don't realize that, like, for people who are living unhoused and who potentially are in withdrawal or have not had their medication because they haven't been able to get to the places on time, like we've had people who are recovered now who said, like, back when they were unhoused and addicted and trying to get to like detox and stuff, it's like they wouldn't know what day of the week it was, they wouldn't know what time it was, how to get, and the places are far away. Like you have to walk all the way there and you realize it's the wrong day, or you're 2 minutes late and they've locked the door, right? I think that our building, we have a building right beside Bridget, and we had a fire 2 years ago right behind it, and it sucked, right? But it was like, these people are just, what are they trying to achieve with a fire? I mean, I don't know if this fire was like a vandalism fire or if it was like a stay warm kind of fire. It doesn't matter, but yeah.
It's hard to say.
But I think the issue too is like, the city's response was funding Alpha House help teams, which is great, like we need them, but they also, there's not enough of them for the demand that we have in our city. Every time we've tried to call, it's like, well, we'll be there as soon as we can. Sometimes it's 30 minutes, sometimes it's 2 hours. And what happens is they bring them, if they want to go, like people have free will. The person does not have to go with them. They are brought to the Alpha House, and then they don't want to stay there either, right? And it just you just keep pushing the problem around the downtown core and Beltline, and now in the north as well, around the train stations. And so until there are like housing without sober living requirements, or there's more downtown places where they can be 24 hours, or places where they can get detox and rehabilitation, whatever it is, until those resources and services increase in supply, we are going to see this. I'm terrified of what's going to happen this winter, right? Like, we don't have enough resources to keep with demand. Neither does any of my colleagues at the table around us, or any of the shelters you talk to in the city, because we're like dealing with an increasing population that need these services, and yet no supply of it.
Nobody knows that more safety than the people that are on the street. They try to live alone. They don't have anybody to
Thanks for that. And yeah, question in the back?
I don't really have a question. Just jumping off some of these things. I run the fundraiser store for the Neighbour, and that is our main source of funding. So I totally understand when someone comes in and there's a certain way that you expect people to act in the general population. And so when you have people who are acting erratically, whatever, people have a tendency to want to force people to stop acting like this. But I think in the years that I've worked in retail, the only thing that I have learned about dealing with situations with people who maybe are not intending to purchase something, for example, is it is so nuanced, and you have to decide how you're going to deal with it. What your physical safety in danger is, like, is it really worth it to have an interaction, a negative interaction with somebody who maybe just like needs a or something. So I think for you, when you're looking for things that you can do at Concorde, I think unfortunately there's no good answer as far as how you're going to interact with community members that are experiencing extreme poverty or mental health issues and things like that. It has to be a constant conversation, and you do have to talk about every single interaction that happens that makes somebody feel uncomfortable or frustrated or unsafe. You have to talk to everybody involved, kind of get to the root cause of what is going on there. And the only thing I really learned is you just need to treat people like people, because we do have, I've had many instances of people coming to our fundraiser for store that have no intention of paying. And instead of embarrassing them and acting really aggressive and trying to protect my things that I'm trying to sell there, just treat them like a person. Most of the time they just want to be seen as a normal person. People who are experiencing extreme poverty, they can't go into a store or into a restaurant and just like sit down for a nice meal like everybody else can. So like when you have somebody around and they're already doing all these things that they don't get to do on a regular basis because they're stigmatized or they're followed around the store. I think the most important thing is just to continue having this conversation with your staff and reinforcing that these are individuals that are just experiencing a really rough time. You don't have to deal with abuse. You don't have to deal with your physical safety being in danger. But also, it's not for you to decide how they are going to act in a certain situation. Like, don't just call the cops because you see somebody carrying a bunch of bags.
Oh, yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And that,
$0.
yeah, and that's,
One
and,
way. Violence?
Yeah.
0.
yeah,
If it's not anything other than that, it's okay, like you can work with it.
yeah.
Like 0 violence.
And I'm not trying to attack you.
I
I'm just
don't
saying
feel
that
attacked.
okay,
I don't feel
but
attacked.
I feel like this
I-
is a constant thing for just, we have to, there are, money runs everything, so we have to be doing these things, we have to work
Yeah.
ourselves in businesses and everything else. But it's a matter of, I feel like you can have a good relationship with the people who live in your community, whether they're housed or not, and create a respectful environment where they maybe are not going to set a fire in front of your thing, like maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know, there's got to be some good solutions, and I would love to help, I would love to get into conversations like
Yeah,
this, because
I appreciate that. Yeah, for sure, I appreciate that. I mean, I think that the people that work within our company, they work with Concorde in this hospitality industry because they love people. Like, that's the reason why I got into this business. That's the reason why a lot of our team members are in this business. So they do have a lot of empathy, and it's just a matter of when situations do get potentially violent, scary. When people are scared, it's not a good situation, and that's not necessarily just with members of the unhoused population. So when it comes to the safety of our team and our guests, again, I'm not always talking about the unhoused. I'm talking about just generally speaking. Sometimes people can be kind of nasty. So yeah.
Okay, we'll take one more question, and then I think yeah, we'll kind of wrap things up. But oh, sorry, I saw someone in the back.
I have a question for you again, sorry.
That's okay. I had a feeling I might get picked on.
So I was just wondering, because you guys are obviously a very large company, you have a lot of different locations, all different stuff, and most of them are downtown Calgary. Would you ever consider like a sort of like a partnership with like day spaces, or like even offer to like talk to the government, like city council, and to advocate for these spaces? Because it's like obviously it's a positive where people are coming in looking for food or looking for anything. To have a place to redirect them to would be like a benefit for the business.
Yeah.
And we're talking about going up and down the Stephen Avenue, talking to a lot of business owners, and asking them to help advocate for us. Because it's like, if we're open, we have places to send people, and they don't have to put their staff in risk of, you know, having somebody they don't know how to talk to.
Yeah.
So would you ever consider like a partnership, or maybe like a way to like help advocate for places like this?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've got to come and visit I've got to come and take a look myself. Everything I've heard here today makes a lot of sense to me, and yeah, I think that it's great work being done, and I need to learn more about it and learn, and then teach my staff and work with the team to make sure that they know the right places to suggest that people might want to head down to. So the answer is yes. I need to come and see the spaces. I need to learn some more about where we would fit in, and then talk to the team on my end, the partners at Concorde, about some of these initiatives, and make sure that there's an understanding as to what the position that we're in as a company, how we could support. I think that there could be some impact there.
I said one more question, and then we'll just do one more after that, and then it's over.
But I feel bad because my question was also.
Well, it's probably because I just sat here in silence the whole time. So, go ahead.
I was wondering if your team members who are on the ground every day, have they ever expressed like a specific thing that they wish that they had access to, or like something they thought would help?
Not to me. That's a great question. That's a question I need to pose to them. It's a really good question. There's so many different interactions and situations that the team have with all the people in and around our restaurants on a daily basis. And as much as everybody that's in the company loves people, it can get a little tiring. It can get a little exhausting at times. So when an incident arises, whatever that may be, the frustration continues to build. So I need to find out what more tools they are looking for and what they feel they're missing, and that's again why I'm here today. So yeah, great question. I don't have a good answer to it.
I think to Lauren's point, like if there is Concorde a part of like a business, like you're a part of the BIAs in like 17th Ave and downtown and stuff, like what would be helpful is like right now the city hears from the nonprofits all the time, and they're kind of like, we know, like, yeah, we're trying to work on it, but there's no pressure from the business community other than hearing from certain business owners like, we want more cops. Like that's basically it. They don't hear that solution in the middle. Like, is it possible we could draft it for you, but it's just like advocating for day spaces, public toilets, like housing, right? Like, is that something that you guys could be like, actually signing our name to this letter could help, because they're hearing it from a different voice.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, I just want to come and learn more before I go back to the
You don't have
ownership.
time, budgets this Monday.
Oh,
You gotta do
shit.
it. Just kidding.
Okay, what do you
it's
have to
okay.
tomorrow?
Yeah. Yeah, come tomorrow.
All right, I'm in.
Well, there's some great networking happening here. So, thank you to all the panelists for coming. I feel like that was a productive discussion, and I want to thank everybody who came to the event too, and all the students from the advanced reporting class for all the work you guys did to put it on. I think it turned out really well. And yeah, thanks to Archie McLean and Brad Sim from the journalism faculty for organizing the event too.
More pizza and drinks in the back.
More pizza and drinks.
I just want to say, like, throughout the day, we've seen so many folks come in just to access, like, clothing, and it's been so amazing, but also so chill. And this is exactly what we're talking about. Like, anybody who has space in the downtown can do this. Anybody can just put up a clothing rack. Like, it does not have to fall and be concentrated on just a few organizations, right? Like, if we don't spread out this issue, it's only just going to create like these concentrations of people, right? The reason why there's so many people at Central United Church is that we are the only downtown option other than the shelter, and the shelter people don't associate with being able to get stuff like this. And so if you want to help solve some of this, like, put a clothing rack somewhere outside, or like if you have an empty space, like, I know, not to pick on Concorde again, but I know that they have a lot of, like, they have empty spaces that they use for storage and stuff. Like, can we do a pop-up there once a month or something, right, to help alleviate this issue? Because we can't afford 17th Avenue rent, but we would love to be on 17th Avenue, right?
Yeah, I think that's, again, why reflecting on this and sitting back and not, again, it's not that the company and the team does nothing. There's a lot of volunteerism, there's a lot of initiatives that we support, but I think that there's more, and it definitely needs to be a collaborative community effort to work through this. So.
And also thanks to Nathan for the great music, who I think will get back on the piano too.